I mean, who am I kidding? It's a Wattpad book. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you what I read in July, what I plan to read in August, and if you stay until the end you can hear about my giveaway for Midnight Sun to celebrate its release, which is today. But in case you don't want to go through all the mumbo jumbo of my words, you can just skip forward and I'll put a timestamp in the description below. So let's get into it. So I was originally doing Reading Rush, but we canceled that. So I stopped doing it in like the middle of it, the end of it. I don't know. So most of those books actually did not get read yet, and so they won't be part of this wrap up. It'll happen eventually, someday. Surprisingly, I actually read 7 books this month, which is a lot more than I've been reading for some reason. So I guess starting this book too really does have its perks. But honestly, I didn't even feel like I read that many books. Looking back at myself, I feel like I didn't feel like I really read that much. So it kind of came as a surprise. Was I when I read these? I don't know. Anyways, the first book I read was Sparrow by L.J. Shen. I actually gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay, but would I reread it? No. I mean, I guess this was kind of like the prequel to After. Like, I just feel like I was destined to read about abusive relationships this month. Because while it isn't nearly as bad as After, like After had some bad shit, there's a lot of questionable stuff that does happen in this book that just kind of made me not want to read it at some points, but we trekked on and I did finish it. So props to me, I guess. Farrah's about this cute funky girl who I can't bother to remember the name of, and she's forced to marry this guy named Troy Brennan. He's also known as a fixer, aka he's in the mob and he fixes things by killing people or beating people up. I don't know. And throughout most of the book, they kind of just hate each other to like no end, even though he's the one who forces her to marry him. So while that was an issue in itself, I also had issues with inconsistencies in the book throughout it. At some points, the characters would say or do things that were completely against what they were thinking, and they would kind of contradict themselves in so many ways. And it wasn't in the they're just being stupid kind of way. It was more like the writer forgot about this kind of way. Either way, they kind of just hate each other the entire book until the very end where it's convenient for him to realize that he actually loves her. Like I said, it was okay. The author's writing, it was very stylistic, so I did enjoy like some of the descriptions that they had, but I couldn't really overlook the other stuff. So the second book that I read was the beginning of a series called Hidden Deep by Amy Patchett. I rated it 1 out of 5 stars, and this is why. So this protagonist, Ryan, meets the guy that saved her life like 10 years ago when she was like 5 years old, because she's like 16 now. So I guess, okay, she was 6 years old when she got saved by this guy, and somehow her 6-year-old mind can remember him exactly. And as soon as they meet, they're like about to kiss. It was such a forced relationship that I just couldn't accept it. Like, I guess he's into her because he saved her. He's into her because she just happens to be human and he's not. But if that was the case, he could have just gone and found another human girl in those 10 years. So, and plus it was full of every single trope that I hate. It's actually the reason why I made that video like making fun of young adult tropes and, you know, typical stuff that happens, because every one of those happens in this book. One line that I really remember distinctly, and sorry, I don't have the book anymore because it was Kindle Unlimited, I think, so I have it on my laptop. So this line says, "But I've never been the girl who everyone looked at, much less stared at for long uninterrupted minutes." I hate this trope. I hate it with a passion. I just hate it. I hate everything about it. It's so overused and cliche for young adult. The girl thinks she isn't beautiful, but then all of a sudden all of these guys are interested in her, even though she's definitely got hotter and more interesting friends. Plus, Ryan kind of has the personality of a damn rock, so it honestly just baffled me that she even got 2 guys to be into her, let alone 1. Either way, the series was pretty long. I think it has between 5 to 8 books. I don't know, I didn't bother to check, but I don't plan to read the rest of the series. The third book that I read was An Abundance of Catherines. If you actually watched my very first video, which I'll link in the description below, then you would have seen my reaction to that. The quality is not great because I decided to film it on my laptop to start with, but you know what? We live and we learn. If you want like a TLDR, the protagonist is just annoying and boring at the same time, and the plot is just so predictable that I could have just skipped like the entire book and gotten the gist of it. And they made daddy jokes that just cut off at least 2 stars right there. The rest of it just slowly went down. If I could have given this book 0 stars, I would have, but I at least had to give it something. The 4th book I read wasn't actually a book. It was actually an anthology of 26 author short stories kind of piled together. It was called One More Step, and it was created by the Bookworm Box that's hosted by Colleen Hoover, who is one of my favorite authors actually, and I met her at Book Bonanza in 2019. I'll make a video about that someday because it's not like I can go to one this year. Anyways, I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars, mainly because I'm not a big fan of short stories in general, and I only read 2 of them. I didn't read all of them because I knew I'd get bored. Short stories just don't really do it for me. But with the 2 stories I did read, I actually really enjoyed. So I read A Meet Cute and Other Disasters by Emma Scott first. It's a story about Ash and Faith, and they both have kind of realized in their lives that they want to detach from the world. They don't want to be involved in all the craziness of New York or Seattle. So while Ash is already living on the island or Hawaii, I kind of forget where exactly, Faith goes there on a trip and she slips and she breaks her ankle, and he happens to be a firefighter who rescues her, the hot firefighter. My dream. So he rescues her and they spend a few days together, and then they realize that they really love each other. It's adorable. It's cheesy and it's heartfelt and I loved it. And honestly, this isn't really a spoiler because it's a freaking short story. There's not much for me to spoil. It's too short. The second story I read was by Colleen Hoover and it was called Saint. And it shows the story of Megan, who is a writer who stays at her cabin kind of secluded because she's a writer and she likes quiet and peace when she's writing. One night though, she decides to have a live stream with her friend where she realizes she can't really find any inspiration and she's really struggling. She kind of complains about it on the live stream, and then all of a sudden this random cop just kind of shows up and yeah, he gives her some inspiration. It was a very much a thriller experience in a short way. It was kind of like her book Verity, which I actually really enjoyed a lot. So if you liked Verity, you would also like Saint a lot. And if you like Saint, then you would really love Verity. So the 5th book that I read this month was The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. It's such an amazing book and it's so prevalent today with the Black Lives Matter movement that I think really everyone should be reading this, or at least some form of it. I give it 5 out of 5 stars, not just because of the topic, but also because I really enjoyed the writing style and I enjoyed the fact that I felt like I was in this young girl's brain. When you're a kid, you have issues making decisions. Making a decision is very hard and you're scared and you're worried and you don't always know what the right thing to do is. For those of you who may have read this book and you may have been like, hey, she should have really spoken up sooner. But would you have if you were that age? So the young girl's name is Star and she actually attends a pretty preppy school while she also lives in a poor neighborhood. Instead of attending that neighborhood school, she's sent off to this better school. She kind of has to fake her personality to fit in. She can't really fully be herself. So she goes to this party in her neighborhood and she leaves with her childhood best friend Khalil. Now her and Khalil actually get pulled over and the cop asks him to step out of the car, and while Khalil is asking Star if she's okay and he starts opening the door to make sure, the cop thinks he's pulling out a gun, the cop thinks this or that, and he shoots him. And basically Star has to make the choice whether to protect herself and her family or to speak out against the injustices that are going on in the world. And she had to kind of make a choice to use her voice for change. The 6th book that I read was Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I actually rated it 2 out of 5 stars. I really thought that I would like this more. The shit was just so dry and boring. The book starts off with Kathy as an adult and she's now ending her life as a carer, or she will be very soon, and she's thinking back on her time at Hailsham. Hailsham is actually an English boarding school for basically raising clones, or I guess you can consider them organ donors, whichever one. They're cloned to become organ donors for the rest of the world. And just so you know, this isn't really a spoiler. This is revealed pretty early on in the book, page 50. I don't remember exactly, but it's revealed pretty early on, and that was one of the issues with the book too. I didn't really enjoy the discussion or conversational way that the author talked to us about this issue or about this book or present the topic, however you want to say it. It felt like an essay to me. There were no twists or turns. There was nothing that was going to surprise me around the corner. After I already knew what was going to happen to the kids, why would I care anymore, I guess? There was nothing there to shock us in the least. There was no shock value. There was nothing that just came out of the blue. It was just kind of boring. Alright, and last but not least, the 7th and final book that I read this month was After by Anna Todd. Yeah, so if you guys want the full review, I'll leave that in the description down below. I did an entire giant review where I broke down the book. This book was a Harry Styles fanfic slash Twilight wannabe slash 50 Shades of Grey wannabe. It's just as bad as it sounds, TBH. Emotionally abusive relationship shipped as a bad boy meets a good girl relationship? Check. Makes fun of completely normal and healthy relationships? Check. Makes a good guy seem like the bad guy even though she could have done a lot of shit differently too? Check. In need of a heavy edit? Check. I mean, who am I kidding? It's a Wattpad book. Alright, up next I'm gonna go over my TBRs for August. This list is gonna be a little bit ambitious, I would like to say, because I have a lot of books I really want to read, but I also have a lot of books that are kind of waiting because they're on hold from the library. Because right now, because of the pandemic, there's no physical books available. I have to get an ebook, right? But the problem is that everyone else also wants the ebooks. So I'm waiting like 12 to 18 weeks for some of these books, and it's so awkward in the timing of them too. The ones I do have though, I will read now, and then hopefully, I don't know, I just hope the rest show up too. I don't know, we'll see. So first up, because I absolutely hate myself, I'm reading After We Collide by Anna Todd. I'm actually currently reading that now. I just got to a part where I kind of had to stop and kind of rethink my life choices. Next, I plan to read Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. It was recently made into a Hulu show. Actually, I don't know if it was recently or if it was a little bit ago, but either way, I only knew about it recently, so I would actually really like to read the book now before I watch the Hulu show. It seems actually really interesting. It's about this perfect neighborhood and these new people move into it, and then there's this huge custody battle that ensues with this child. Obviously, there's a lot more that's going to go into it, so we'll see. So the third book that I'm planning to read is Serpent and Dove. The reason I decided to read it now is because the sequel is supposed to be coming out pretty soon, I think. Actually, that's a lie. I have no idea. I've heard both good and bad things about this story, so we'll see. I'm probably still gonna rag on it because I like to rag on everything I read a little bit, even if I like it, because some shit's just so funny. Some stuff just doesn't make sense all the time, okay? That's just how I am. So basically, the pretense of this book is a witch and a chasseur, who is part of the church, are forced to marry each other, even though she's a witch and he hunts witches. I'm assuming some shit's gonna go down. We'll find out. The fourth thing I'm planning to read is the entire Caraval series. Caraval? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I have no idea. So this girl leaves her tiny ass island to go watch the Caraval, but then she becomes the Caraval. Yeah, that's what it seems like. It's gotten really mixed reviews on Goodreads, but I've also heard really good things about it at the same time. And lastly, I plan to read the Graceling series, although I may not finish the entire series by the end of the month. Basically, a girl has some unique skills, but then she falls in love and she discovers she might have some more skills. So lastly guys, today, if you're a subscriber on my channel, thank you so much for subscribing, and I just wanted to give you guys a chance for a giveaway. I know it's pretty early in my channel to be doing this, but Midnight Sun's coming out and I figured it'd be a good way to start doing some giveaways at the beginning of months. Step 1. Follow my Instagram at gemedits. Step 2. Subscribe to my channel. Step 3. Comment on one of my Instagram posts or comment down below to let me know that you guys have done these steps. And I really appreciate the support. Anyways, if you guys like the content today and you don't want to enter the giveaway, either way, just subscribe to my channel. You know, I make decent stuff. I'm not a dry ass, piece of lettuce. I am just browning lettuce, okay? I am still moist, beautiful lettuce, but like with a little bit of brown on it. I'm a little bit there. But we're gonna ripen up as the channel moves on. Anyways, thanks for watching today. And if you like the content, please hit the like and subscribe button below. And thank you so much. Have a great day.